Hello, I'm Jason Lancaster, Customer Care Representative for Printfleet, and today I'm going to show you how to configure your printer DCA network settings and set up your own custom scan profile. Printfleet's Printer DCA, or Data Collection Agent, is a software application that collects information from printers and other multifunctional devices on your customer's network. It then transmits that data back to the Printfleet Optimizer server. In other words, the DCA is the component of the Printfleet software that collects and transmits the meters, page counts, and other data that allow you to manage your customer's print environments. By default, when a printer DCA is first installed on a server in your client's network, the DCA selects a default set of IP addresses to scan. This is based on either the Active Directory or the primary network card on the system or server the printer DCA was installed to. What this does is scan the network and picks up any printer or multifunctional device and begins reporting the various meters and datasets back to the Printfleet server. These IP addresses are then automatically added to the default scan profile for the DCA, meaning that every time the DCA scans the network, those IP addresses will be automatically scanned during every interval. As the Printfleet software continues to evolve, our team of developers are hard at work at bringing new features and functions to improve your abilities to monitor your customers' devices. One of these great additions was our remote configuration functionality that was added to the software in the Printfleet Optimizer version 3.6 update. This update gives you the ability to configure and customize your DCA network scan settings from the comfort of your office. To start configuring your DCA scan settings, click on the Administration tab from the Printfleet user interface and then click DCA. In the DCA management page, you will see all of the DCAs that you have created. Clicking on any one of the DCAs will open up the Dca Detail Page. The Dca Detail Page has the Overview tab open as a default, which displays information such as when the DCA was created, the date in which it last reported, which group it reports into, and what version of the DCA is currently running. You have the ability to rename your DCA as well as disable, reactivate, or delete your DCA if you so choose. Clicking on the Config tab will allow you to begin configuring your DCA network scan settings. These settings determine how the DCA collects information from the network and how it transmits information to the central server. As the default scan settings scan all IP ranges on a network, you may want to adjust the devices that are included in the default settings. Single IP addresses, ranges of IP addresses, and host names can all be used as specified devices to include or exclude from a network scan. For example, a potential use case for removing IP addresses from a scan would be to remove the ones that don't have printing devices associated with them, which would create a more effective scan range, shortening the network scan time. The final configuration in the general component of the configuration page is the scan interval. Adjusting the scan interval determines how often the DCA will scan the network, and by default, this is set to every 60 minutes. Under the Security tab, you have the option to enable Snmp version 3. By default, the DCA uses Snmp version 1 to communicate with devices. However, some devices support version 3. Using version 3 supports authentication and privacy through encryption. However, these additional security options result in longer scan types for devices that use version 3. Clicking the checkbox beside Enable Snmp version 3 allows you to input the authentication and privacy information for the network you are scanning. Jumping over to the Advanced tab, you'll find some additional options to configure your DCA scan settings. Your first option is the ability to adjust the network timeout, which determines how long the DCA will wait for a network device to respond back with its information during a scan. If a device is not being discovered during a scan, increasing the network timeout will give the device more time to report back into the DCA. The next options are the ability to edit how long the DCA waits if any web page scraping is being done, while the Scan Type drop-down menu allows you to configure whether to scan for network or local devices, or both types during a scan. The next configuration option will be Snmp Retries, which is the number of times the printer DCA will attempt to retrieve information from a device that is responding with incomplete or no information. Up next is your focus scan interval. Increasing the focus scan interval from its default setting of 0 will enable focus scan, which will only scan devices found on a previous full network scan. Using this feature can decrease the amount of total time and bandwidth the DCA occupies, which can increase effectiveness on large networks. The final setting is the local agent timeout, which configures the timeout for initial connections to locally connected devices. Now that we've gone through what each of the configuration options are, we can now create a scan profile with different scan and transmission settings that will run independently of the default scan. Going back to the General tab, you can begin creating a new scan profile by clicking on the plus sign button beside the Scan Profile drop-down menu. The new Scan Profile window pop-up opens, where you can then name your profile and create it by clicking Create New Scan Profile. From here, you can set up a series of specific scans that run in conjunction with the default scan. For example, you can create a scan profile that will only scan local devices once a day, or a scan profile that only does devices that report through Snmp version 3. Once you've configured the settings of your scan profile, all you need to do is click Save Changes and your new scan profile is ready to go.